We have a Congress that is on recess right now, and what has half of the new more than half, excuse me. As of right now, my understanding is that there are 63 new members of Congress, 63 total between the House and the Senate. When you think about it, that's actually a pretty decent turnover in terms of representation, but I digress. It's over 10%. It's about 12%. But with that said, why is this significant? Because 35 members between the two parties are currently in Israel on vacation, if you want to call it vacation. What you have here is the first list that we are aware of the 10 members of the Democratic Party that are currently sitting in Congress as freshman members, just new people, not even waiting. Let's get them over there as quickly as possible. Mr. Cross-Eye is not there from Westchester County, New York, but a lot of others are. And there's a lot of other AIPAC-funded representatives that aren't necessarily on this trip, but it almost looks like this photograph of the Democratic members was taken from an airport hangar of some kind. But nevertheless, you've got a whole bunch of people like Nellie Pooh, who happens to be a representative in North Jersey. Could that be a Zionist district? It's possible. I would imagine that a handful of these districts are. Laura Gillen, who is a New York, partially has New York City, I believe, Queens, is part of the district that she does represent, which means she crosses over into New York City. She has been a very outspoken congressional representative against Zoran Mamdani becoming the next mayor of New York City. So that should come as no surprise, even if she's only taken at this point just over $100,000. And of course, you have somebody like Brad Schneider, who I am familiar with. He is a Jewish representative in the Chicago suburbs, I believe, of Illinois. And he has taken a whopping $1.3 million from the Israel lobby already. Hasn't even had a chance to warm up that seat of what he is hoping becomes the rest of his life in Congress. Still wants the people of the Israel lobby to know that he is fully on board, not just with the genocide, but being a corporate whore for their every beck and call. Pete Aguilar, a representative who has become very loud in Congress about trying to be a voice for progressive issues. Yeah, really progressive when you take almost $1 million from AIPAC. For those of you that are in California, I'm sure you're familiar with Mr. Aguilar, so this one should come as absolutely no surprise. But why stop? You've got another Gil Cisneros, representative of California's 31st district, which I believe is by Los Angeles, and he's taken almost $100,000 already, and he is not waiting at all to get on board the Zionist Nazi train. That's, again, no surprise. Some of these regions, as I mentioned, are going to come as a surprise, and some of them are not. Again, if you happen to be representative of a district that is heavily influenced by the Zionist Jewish vote, which in the case of Jen's run against Wasserman Schultz, yes, it happens to be a very Zionist dominant district, so that should come as no surprise. Now you have John Olszewski. He's taken a little under $87,000 for representing Maryland's 2nd district. Now, I believe that this district is part of the DC metro suburbs. If anybody wants to correct me in the chat, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not totally familiar with him as a representative, but I could be wrong. Luis Rivas, California's 29th district, again, Southern California. But what should come is maybe somewhat of a surprise for a lot of people, and maybe not so much with somebody like a Laura Gillen or a Brad Schneider. They are representing highly, densely Zionist districts, whereas Cisneros, Rivas, Aguilar, these are predominantly Latino Catholic districts that they represent. Now, is it possible that there are Zionists within those districts that have a lot of political influence? I would imagine so. But I think it's also important as we continue to evolve in our knowledge about how our political representation exists in this country. It is essential that we become more and more familiar with those that are selling us out. Now, why would somebody like Wesley Bell feel the need to take almost $13 million in campaign contributions from the Israel lobby? He represents St. Louis, Missouri. Now, as far as I know, not a huge Zionist population. In fact, the overwhelming majority of the population that he represents is black. Cori Bush, who was the representative that the Israel lobby made it their mission in life to get her kicked out of office, this is who they stuffed all that money behind to get her out. Now, was it necessarily because they wanted to have some type of a sizable Zionist representation in St. Louis, especially in the eastern part of St. Louis, which was predominantly black? Probably not, but they certainly didn't want somebody like Cori Bush, who is very outspoken about the Israel lobby. So they had to make an example of her, just like they made an example of Jamal Bowman. So Wesley Bell is their bitch in more ways than one. Now, Tim Kennedy, New York's 26th district, which I believe is upstate New York, pretty close to Elise Stefanik. Again, whether it's a Democrat, whether it's a Republican, it doesn't matter. They are on the take. And for such a little amount of money, you're going to go on this trip, this all expenses paid, roll out the red carpet. Let's, see how much we can exploit a representative for the least amount of money. Tim Kennedy, shame on you especially, man. You're fucking Irish. And you take that shit, fuck you, man. And of course, as I mentioned, Nellie Poo, or Pow, however which way she wants to pronounce her name, she's not much in the way of having to take too much to sell out. But she's a representative in North Jersey. And my understanding is that she likes to block a lot of people on social media. So again, it should come as no surprise. This is who our Congress represents. They represent the highest bidder. And as of today, the Israel lobby is more than happy to do just that. Keep everybody in line. But we're not done. This is just the Democrats. Colin, could you please show us the Republicans courtesy of Code Pink? Now, if you might be able to blow that up a little bit so we can get in a little close here. Now, as you can imagine, these representatives are on a very tight leash, and much tighter, I would imagine, as of right now in the Republican Party, because the Republican Party, of course, is the party in power. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson coordinated this wonderful shindig to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Got to touch that wall. And so as we go through the list of these representatives, the one and only representative from the state of Wyoming, Harriet Hagman, she, of course, is on that list. Claudia Tenley, the only problem with this list is it doesn't list where these representatives actually are from. Now, I know that these are all GOP representatives. And of course, as you could see, Randy Fine, which the numbers fluctuate to determine exactly how much he has taken. I believe this may just be from AIPAC. So from AIPAC, he has taken over $125,000, but from the Israel lobby overall, he's taken over $1 million. One of the biggest shitbags in all of Congress is Brandon Gill. Now, this guy Gill is a congressional representative, I believe, out of Houston. And he has only taken a small amount of money. Colin, could you please blow it up a little bit? I don't know if you can do that or not. Just kind of scroll in. Is that, yeah, there you go. Okay. So as you can see, Brandon Gill, who has only taken $26,000, not a lot of money, but this guy is one of the biggest shitbags in all of politics. I mean, you want to talk about somebody who writes the most disgusting, reprehensible language towards anything related to not only Palestinians, but here's one of the absolute worst inciters of violence against Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib. The guy's inflammatory language is as bad as it gets. If you are not familiar with Brandon Gill, I would suggest you become familiar with him. This is the type of person that really gives the worst impression not just as Americans of our Congress, but probably to anybody around the world. The level of ignorance and arrogance that this man conducts business is off the charts. And he's a cheap whore, as it would appear. Only $26,000, that's all it took for him to commit to this. As far as any of the other representatives are concerned, Marlon Stutzman, Jewish guy, huge Zionist. Some of them do this for a career. Others do it opportunistically. You know, it depends on where you stand. Representative Greg Goldman, another one. Scroll down a little, Colin. I want to see the bottom line. So for the guys at the bottom, obviously the person who stands out here, if you could scroll up, I can't see Tom's full information. There you go. So guys, Tom Emmer. Now, it's one thing to have Mike Johnson go with you. Now you got Tom Emmer going, the House Majority Whip. He's taken almost $600,000. Again, these people are just getting started. And if you couldn't get more waspy than Jefferson Shreve, $12,000, that's all it took? That's all it took for you, Jeff? Jefferson. Mr. Jefferson. That's all it took for you to sell out this country? Because that's all these guys are doing. At least with Guy Reschenthaler, he at least asked for a little bit of scratch. He at least was willing to say, all right, look, I'm going to do it, but you're going to give me a lot of money to do it. I'm not doing this for cheap. Look at these other guys, Tony Weed, Bob Onder, Troy Downing. These guys are such cheap whores. But in the end, I think that for them, it's, as we've stated before, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican. It just matters that you're in the club. And if you want to stay in the club without facing any resistance, as of this moment, as I mentioned, a lot of this can change. But as of right now, these representatives, they're in it for the long haul. And they are convinced that our country is not going to rise up against this corporate infrastructure that is led in many ways by Israel. Is it going to change? Can't get them all at once, but brick by brick, perhaps. I do believe Randy Fine is going to get challenged. I do believe he's going to have a legitimate challenger, and we'll see what happens. If you could scroll to the top, Colin, just want to check the top line one more time. And even here, as I mentioned, Harriet Hagman, the only representative in the state of Wyoming, all these other representatives, John McGuire, McCall, who, again, Congressman McCall, I mean, talk about an absolute sellout. But then again, you look at somebody like Julie Fedorachik. I don't know where she's a representative. I think I've heard of her before. But how about Michael Bumgarner? $10,000? Heck, I could raise $10,000. If I gave you $10,000, would you not take the Israel lobby's money? But again, as we have seen, especially with somebody like AOC, it's not even a question of whether they're taking a substantial amount of the money. Randy Fine is a cheap whore. He's a fat-ass cheap whore. How's that? He's a bad man, a very bad man. He's probably got a lot of skeletons in his closet that he doesn't want to have come out. And Claudia Tenney. Can anybody tell me where Claudia Tenney is a representative? I'm always curious. Harriet Hagman she looks like a real psychopath. People he ate, maybe. I know he eats Palestinian babies. I mean, he's pretty adamant about, what's on his menu. But all kidding aside, this is a disgusting display of just how bad our federal representatives actually are. And if anybody can explain it well, of all the people that, as we now see how I would describe these honeypot situations. And again, I'm not here to tell you, and I am not here to defend Matt Gaetz in any way as far as what he may or may not have done with an underage woman. What I am here to tell you is that if he was exposed, he was only exposed because he wasn't playing ball. Matt Gaetz unlike the rest of these representatives that I have shown you, may have the same type of skeletons that all of them have, but he decided that he wasn't playing ball with Israel, and they decided to come after him with everything they had. And here's what he had to say regarding this trip that these congressional representatives just took and why it's so detrimental to all of us. And he said this to Glenn Greenwald.
That AIPAC trip, I went on subsequent trips, and there is an actual downward pressure from the leadership and even the committee chairs. Like if you're on the Foreign Affairs Committee, if you're on the Armed Services Committee, if you're on the Intelligence Committee, there's like an expectation that you go there and some.
Right there. It's not even a question of whether you take the money. It's you are expected. You are in the Democratic caucus. You are in the Republican caucus. It doesn't matter. If you are a part of this and you want to be on the team, you will join us on this excursion, whether you've taken $10,000 like Bumgardner took, whether you've taken $1 million like Mike Johnson or Randy Fine has taken. It doesn't matter. Either you're with us or you're against us. Perhaps in the not too distant future, things will change and the Israel lobby will no longer have the stranglehold over our country that it currently does. But as of today, they have it. Could you imagine going to Israel right now? Right now? And not just going there on a trip, going there to the wall. Like everything's fine. Like they're not just trying to invade. Again, we got to have a better word than invasion. There's got to be a better word than invasion for what is going on right now in Gaza and what Netanyahu is attempting to do. But with that in the backdrop, that's what you're doing. That's insanity. In fact, what it should be is political suicide. That's what it should be. But we all know we live one nation under Palantir now. And that is one of the biggest reasons why we're not able to stop this as of yet. But one of the key reasons that we should be able to stop it is if we continue to band together collectively as a United States of America. That's one of our greatest sins, is that we figure out a way not to band together, to not represent we the people. Full stop. A lot of people may not like Matt Gaetz. I have my issues with him, but I know people that know him very well. And he took a real stand. And that's why he's not there anymore. Again, I am not saying he did or did not do what they said that he did regarding that young woman and whether he crossed state lines. Throw all of that aside for 1 second and ask yourself this. If he played ball with the Israel lobby, would he still be sitting in Congress right now? I think he would.
Sort of like a congressional Hajj. And I remember being at I'll never go back. I was at the King David Hotel and I rolled back to my room unexpectedly when the rest of the group was still on some planned activity. And there was some dude in my room. I'm like, hey man, what are you doing here? And he acted like he was associated with the hotel and taking an inventory, but had no clipboard. And so, yeah, there's a lot of reasons why they want members of Congress over there.
Could you imagine, forget being a congressional representative. Forget any of that. Could you imagine going back to your hotel room when you're on supposed vacation and you find somebody in your room? I mean, I understand it's a hotel, so it's not an apartment, so you can't say it's a B&E, but it kind of is. And could you imagine that shock of seeing a person like sitting there? Hey, we're part of AIPAC. Yeah, it is a B&E. But the law does not apply to the Israel lobby. The law does not apply to those who believe and in many ways are above the law. So when somebody pulls something like that, it's a very disturbing circumstance. Kit, good to see you. Guys, make sure that you have smashed that like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you share the stream. We're already at 250 live viewers, but as of this moment, we only have 142 likes. We need you to hit that like button. We really appreciate it. I do like how Gaetz is very chill about all of this, but Lord knows I would be a lot more upset. And maybe he had it out with the guy, but that goes to show you just how dangerous the Israel lobby really is and how much they believe that they own our government. And you know what? Right now, they do. But that doesn't mean it has to stay that way.
And it is ideologically to steep them in this notion that the protection of Israel is of great import to people in America. But it's really not that important to voters. And that is becoming more clear on the right and left.
And he's absolutely right. He's 100% correct. That is what's changing. This is becoming a universal issue amongst the political populace, especially the millennial and Gen Z generations. Because the future really does belong to us. I don't want to discount Gen X. Jen's Gen X. Rachel's Gen X. We've got a lot of good, I think Brett Boyle's Gen X. I think we got a lot of good Gen Xers here. So I don't want to discount the Gen X group. But so much of the future rests with millennials and Gen Zers. And so it would appear on the surface, with few exceptions, like scum sucker Charlie Kirk, who does it all for money and power. He doesn't have an ideal. He's not an ideologue. He doesn't believe in shit. He believes in whatever the Koch-funded Turning Point USA tells him to do. But Matt Gaetz is absolutely correct here. The overwhelming majority of people are not on board with this.